The war ends if Ukraine cedes the Donbas that has been Russian President Vladimir Putin's position since the earliest days of peace negotiations. And he continues repeating it because he understands that shaping the narrative is just as important as battlefield success. In Putin's telling, the idea is simple. If Ukraine simply hands over the entire Donbas region, Russia will immediately halt its military operations, pack up, and step away. But because he knows that people across the world would question such a sweeping demand, Putin has spent years constructing a justification around it, claiming that Ukraine should give up the Donbas because it's going to fall sooner or later anyway. To make that argument sound credible, he points to numbers circulated by the Kremlin and various pro-Russian channels that say Russia already controls 88% of the Donbas, painting the region as functionally lost and encouraging the perception that Ukraine is just delaying the inevitable. On the surface, those numbers appear convincing, but in reality, they drown out the essential truth. The Donbas is not collapsing. Instead, it is becoming the greatest test Russia has faced in nearly 4 years of fighting. Rather than Ukraine breaking in the Donbas, it is Russia that is being slowly worn down. Its military bled, its logistics strained, and its timetable shattered, all while Putin continues presenting to the world a carefully crafted illusion of dominance. Putin tried to break Ukraine in the Donbas, but in the process, he shattered Russia instead, something that becomes clearer the closer you look beneath the surface of propaganda and the political theater of negotiations. Yet, if you were to listen only to Putin himself, or to certain US negotiators who appear eager to push through a quick peace plan, regardless of long-term consequences, you would think Russia holds all the cards. In every attempt at ceasefire or peace talks since US, President Donald Trump's administration began taking a more direct role in negotiations. The question of territory has remained the central sticking point. Putin demands not part of the Donbas, not a negotiated buffer, but the entire region, insisting Russia will only withdraw once all of Donetsk and Luhansk, including the remaining Ukrainian-held portions, are formally transferred to Moscow. Ukraine, on the other hand, stands immovably firm. It refuses to hand over the remaining land for free. Those lands are not symbolic. They are deeply defended, strategically vital, and soaked in years of Ukrainian resistance. And behind every diplomatic conversation is the unspoken truth that the Kremlin's demands stem not from confidence, but from a desperate need to portray a victory. Putin insists that Russia is winning, insists that its grip on the Donbas is tightening, insists that Ukraine must eventually accept fate, yet on the battlefield, none of those claims reflect reality. Putin's maximalist approach to the peace negotiations, demanding all of the Donbas and suggesting Ukraine has no choice but to surrender, reveals much more about his political goals than his military prospects. For him, perception is everything. He needs Russia's population to believe the war is progressing favorably, that sacrifices are justified, and that Russia's international standing remains unshaken. Even when reality contradicts him, he doubles down on the narrative. A perfect example came on December 4, when the BBC reported his stark and threatening words about the Donetsk region. He declared, "Either we liberate these territories by force, or Ukrainian troops will leave these territories." A statement designed not only to project inevitability, but also to erase the possibility that Russia itself could suffer setbacks or face insurmountable difficulties. This language is intended to box Ukraine and the West psychologically, to make them feel trapped between terrible choices, endless war, or territorial concession. But in truth, Putin is speaking less like a man confident of victory and more like a leader aware that time is working against him. The Donbas is not collapsing, it is becoming a fortress, and every month that passes deepens the gap between his public claims and the battlefield reality that Russian soldiers endure. The United States appears, surprisingly, to be entertaining Putin's vision of the Donbas situation, or at least certain factions within US policy circles seem eager for Ukraine to consider withdrawing from the contested region. According to reporting from AA, the US is actively pushing the idea that Ukraine should leave the Donbas one way or another, a stance attributed to an unnamed European official who described American pressure behind closed doors. This development is striking because it suggests geopolitical expediency may outweigh long-term stability or moral responsibility. The official speculates about the political motivations behind this shift. Perhaps Donald Trump, who promised during his campaign that he would end the Ukraine war on day one, is becoming frustrated by the slow pace of negotiations and wants a quick solution he can claim credit for. Nearly a year into his presidency, that promise remains unfulfilled. With time running short and political pressures rising, pushing Ukraine to surrender territory might offer a shortcut, even if it ignores the consequences such a concession would unleash. If Trump wants to portray himself as the deal-maker who brought peace, forcing Ukraine to give up the Donbas is the easiest way to declare success, regardless of the strategic catastrophe it represents for Kyiv and the moral hazard it encourages in authoritarian regimes worldwide. Russia works tirelessly to craft the impression that it is on the verge of conquering the remaining parts of Donetsk, and that the fall of the final Ukrainian-held territories is a foregone conclusion. That perception appears to have persuaded some American officials, but the reality on the ground is very different. Ukraine still holds approximately 30% of the Donbas region, including some of the most strategically critical and heavily fortified land in the entire country. Among the remaining Ukrainian strongholds are Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, two cities with enormous symbolic and military importance, as well as Pokrovsk, Druzhkivka, and Kostiantynivka. Together, these 5 cities form what analysts and journalists have called the fortress belt of Donetsk, a network of hardened, layered defenses built over nearly a decade of war. These cities were not hastily fortified. They have been prepared meticulously since 2014, evolving in complexity as Ukraine learned from every battle across the region. Far from being easy targets, they represent some of the most formidable urban fortresses in Europe today. And this is the real reason Ukraine refuses to cede the region. The last 30% of Donetsk is not just land, it is the backbone of Ukraine's eastern defense, a protective shield that prevents Russia from making deeper and more devastating advances toward the country's heartland. To understand the difficulty Russia faces, consider Pokrovsk, one of the 5 key cities in Ukraine's fortress belt, and arguably the most embattled. Russia has repeatedly claimed to have taken the city, using propaganda to create an illusion of progress. But each time Ukraine has refuted the assertions. The truth is that fighting continues inside Pokrovsk, street by street and building by building. Most observers believe the city will eventually fall. The question is when, not if. But what Russia has endured trying to seize it shows just how catastrophic the cost will be for every additional kilometer it advances. For more than a year, Russia has poured tremendous manpower and firepower into Pokrovsk's direction. On October 6, former Forbes journalist David Axe reported that Russia suffered an estimated 100,000 casualties in that axis alone during the first 9 months of 2025. Then Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed that Ukraine's drone operators confirmed 25,000 Russian kills in October alone, the overwhelming majority around Pokrovsk. That means 125,000 Russian casualties for a single city in 10 months, and even that staggering number doesn't capture the full cost. More soldiers died before, and more have died since. And all of that carnage is the result of Russia trying and still failing to take just one city within a chain of 5. Pokrovsk's brutal battle is not an isolated example. It is a symptom of a much larger pattern of Russian overreach and Ukrainian resilience. Another example is Chasiv Yar, a smaller but critically placed settlement in Donetsk. Russia claimed to have taken Chasiv Yar toward the end of July, framing the supposed capture as a major turning point in the entire Donbas offensive. Russian military bloggers loudly celebrated online, presenting the fall as evidence that Russia's momentum was strong and irreversible. But the proclamation quickly unraveled. As Russia broadcast victory, Ukraine issued immediate refutations. On July 31, the Kyiv Post reported comments from Viktor Trehubov, spokesperson for the Khortytsia operational group, stating, "The situation in the town has remained unchanged recently, despite Russian lies." Months later, independent assessments and United 2-4 media confirmed Ukraine's account. Chasiv Yar still stands, acting as a major barrier to Russian advancement almost 20 months after Putin first ordered the assault. This drawn-out stalemate reveals the core truth about the so-called fortress belt. It is built to endure, to exhaust, and to inflict losses at a scale Russia cannot sustainably absorb. If Russia struggles this much in small settlements like Chasiv Yar, the challenge of larger cities like Sloviansk and Kramatorsk will be exponentially harder. Every additional week that Russia spends trying and often failing to break Ukrainian defenses in places like Pokrovsk and Chasiv Yar grants Ukraine more time to deepen and strengthen the fortifications behind them. According to United 2-4 media, the Donetsk region has now transformed into a dense, layered web of military fortifications, stretching dozens of kilometers, distributed across natural high ground and interconnected through defensive lines that have become more complex with each passing month of conflict. These aren't static trenches, but dynamic, adaptive systems built with years of battlefield learning. As Russia struggles to move forward inches at a time, Ukraine improves the trenches, lays new minefields, reconstructs damaged positions, and reinforces supply routes. All of this means that even if Pokrovsk or Chasiv Yar eventually falls, which remains possible due to the sheer mass of Russian manpower thrown at them, Russia will not suddenly burst through Ukrainian defenses. Instead, it will face a new, even larger labyrinth of danger. What Russia has endured so far is only the beginning. The deeper Moscow pushes into Donetsk, the worse its losses will become. And that is precisely why Putin is trying to convince the world that Donetsk's fall is imminent. Because if the truth were widely recognized, pressure would mount on him to justify a war that is destroying Russia from within. In October, The Telegraph revealed just how terrifying the fortress belt has become for any army attempting to penetrate it, declaring that this region is now a battlefield where NATO doctrine no longer applies. That statement reflects the sheer transformation of warfare within the Donetsk fortifications. Ukrainian drone networks saturate the skies at all hours, operating not in hundreds but potentially thousands, providing constant surveillance and immediate strike capability. Meanwhile, ground robots, autonomous and semi-autonomous transport supplies through trenches, repair defenses, clear obstacles, deliver ammunition, and even evacuate wounded soldiers. Open trenches, once highly vulnerable, have been redesigned to accommodate robotic logistics and to create lethal kill zones where invading troops are funneled into pre-sighted areas under the watch of drones and artillery. Russia has tried to answer by launching a massive drone siege of its own, hoping to overwhelm Ukraine's aerial network. But drones alone cannot capture fortified territory. At some point, Russian infantry must physically advance, supported by tanks and armored vehicles. A Ukrainian officer told The Telegraph frankly, "If Moscow pushes in this direction, they will struggle in the urban areas and suffer thousands of casualties." In other words, the fortress belt is not just a defensive line, it is a machine built to grind invading armies into dust. Before any urban combat even begins in Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Druzhkivka, or the other fortress belt cities, Russia must fight through a literal gauntlet of Ukrainian defenses that cover hundreds of miles. Every trench, every fortified ridge, every minefield has been prepared with the expectation of a slow, grinding Russian advance. Ukrainian forces have carefully studied Russian tactics for years and built systems specifically designed to counter them. Tank traps, steel structures that immobilize armored vehicles are everywhere. Barbed wire obstacles stretch across open terrain, ready to tear apart infantry units that attempt to push forward without engineering support. Secret minefields lie beneath the soil, many of them mapped only by the Ukrainian defenders who placed them, ready to obliterate unprotected battalions. Stay behind bunkers, hidden and reinforced positions left in the wake of Ukrainian tactical retreats ensure that even when Russian troops take ground, they never control it fully. Ukrainian soldiers can strike at Russian supply lines from behind, turning every advance into a vulnerability. And looming above it all are the drones, thousands of them, ready to turn any exposed infantry column into a target. The fall of Pokrovsk or Chasiv Yar, should it occur, will not mark the end of Russia's fight for the Donbas. It will signal the beginning of an even more catastrophic Phase 1 that will cost Russia not just time, not just resources, but tens of thousands more lives.